Both the selling point and the limitation of the Poirot films is that you know exactly what you're getting. The time period and the tone are so set in stone that it requires a fresh A-list cast of suspects and new scenic location to differentiate each from the last. So credit where it's due to Kenneth Branagh, who has given this a shockingly different feel, even while hitting all the necessary beats. Like Agatha Christie herself, Kenneth Branagh found a reliable formula for mysteries. In his 2 previous adaptations of Christie novels, he directed and played the cerebral detective Hercule Poirot amid a star-filled cast, in an exotic location with at least one killer on the loose. Murder on the Orient Express, with Michelle Pfeiffer and Johnny Depp, had an enjoyably retro, over-the-top style. Death on the Nile was a bit less starry and diverting. Now, A Haunting in Venice sets a definite pattern of diminishing returns. It is very loosely based on a lesser-known late-career Christie novel, Halloween Party, altering the plot, changing existing characters, and adding new ones. And it shifts Christie's English country house location to Venice. The other change brought by Branagh and writer Michael Green is the time period. Contrary to the traditional Agatha Christie interwar setting, which takes place in 1947. Poirot has retired from detecting, much to the chagrin of many would-be clients who camp outside his door nightly and are repelled by his bodyguard portfolio. But the arrival of his pal Ariadne Oliver, a crime writer, tempts him back. She wants him to debunk the work of psychic Mrs. Reynolds, who has lined up a Halloween seance in the crumbling palazzo of grieving opera diva Rowena Drake, who has taken up residence in a reportedly haunted palazzo after the death of her daughter Alicia. Upon arrival, Poirot is bombarded with all manner of myths and rumors about the building, which was once the site of an orphanage, the spirits of whose children have vowed to exact revenge upon the living. He's appropriately skeptical of the notion of ghosts, even after the arrival of Mrs. Reynolds, a medium who appears to summon Alicia's spirit during the seance. But when Poirot subsequently debunks many of Mrs. Reynolds' methods, a fumbled attempt on his life by an unseen assailant leads to the murder of another of the attendees, prompting the retired investigator to lock the remaining survivors inside the palazzo to determine the identity of the murderer and, if possible, to uncover the truth about the phenomena he's witnessed that could be of supernatural origin. There's creepier energy here, the plot packed not only with murders but possibly paranormal events, out of keeping with standard whodunit vibes. Poirot struggling to separate ghost from reality. To emphasize the eeriness, Branagh gives free rein to his long-standing weakness for a Dutch angle, tilting the camera every which way, looking for the creepiest corners of the storm-racked palazzo, while cinematographer Harris Zambarloukos keeps the lighting just the right side of dingy. Surrounding Branagh's reliable Poirot, it's a mixed bag. Faye brings screwball energy to Oliver, while Riley seems both delicate and desperate. But Yo doesn't get to do much more than pose, make vaguely sinister statements, and be insulted by both Poirot and Oliver. The Belfast reteaming of Jamie Dornan and Jude Hill gives the latter more to do. Oddly, though Dornan is suitably twitchy as a veteran with PTSD. If Poirot's road back to becoming a detective after retirement feels somewhat preordained, Branagh cleverly exploits the natural allure of a good mystery, both in front of and behind the camera, to draw the audience in for a romp that's equal parts creepy and classy. Ultimately, A Haunting in Venice is just spooky enough, whether you're typically interested in getting your pants scared off, or prefer a slightly more polished level of intrigue and sophistication. Mind you, it probably won't provoke any deeper conversations than about how this legendary detective manages to keep his legendary mustache perfectly groomed even after going bobbing for apples. But aside from that most improbable suspension of disbelief, Branagh's latest is otherwise a mostly satisfying grown-up movie. In each of his Christie films, Branagh brings depth and backstory to the person behind the mustache, with his dark view of humanity. In Venice, more than ever, he seems a touching, lonely figure. But the depth of character is not the point in this mystery. Of course, Poirot eventually says,
"No one shall leave this place until I know who did it,"
and later describes exactly who and what caused multiple deaths. His revelations are not especially surprising, though. As any mystery fan knows, the supposedly least likely suspect is often the killer, and the unsuspenseful Haunting in Venice doesn't do much to undermine that guess. In the end, it still comes down to a gathering of the survivors for a grand reveal and an impossibly convoluted explanation. Some things are essential, and we wouldn't want this old dog to reveal too many new tricks. Strain too hard for change, and you end up with backstories for facial hair and similar madness. Still, this new tactic of rewriting obscure Christie novels with wild abandon shows real promise. It may be too tame for horror fans, but the gothic twist works remarkably well, even if everything else is business as usual for the Belgian detective. And that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into this movie. If you agreed with our take or think we missed something, please let us know in the comments below. Remember to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss out on our future movie reviews and discussions.